Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, and the heroic end of David White's Mecha Zone 6-inch action figure push kicked off with the Mechanaut V2 Soldier, a 3D printed and acetone vapor treated piece designed, printed, prepared, and shipped entirely by a one-man operation. For more gabbing about the process and nature of the Mecha Zone printed toy lines, check out the Predanaut video I did a little while back, because this video's all business, baby. Looking like your average spacefaring cybernetic superhero of the 80s, the Mechanaut Soldier's kinda like a grown-up Diaclone driver who joined the army and saw some shiznat. The silhouette has some similarities to the Predanaut Fang design, but is less bulked out and more boxed out. He's got some Megatron-ish legs, an armor-plated barrel chest, and a silver face that's simply made for headlining the top of a toy line logo. While he isn't as visually busy as Predanaut Fang, Mechanaut Soldier has a more serenely geometric set of surface detail sculpting on the surfaces of his body. The military green, jet black, and flat gray coloration is entirely unpainted and acetone-treated ABS plastic, with the silver face and gunmetal chestplate being the only paintwork on the figure. It's all pretty well done, and the acetone treatment still makes some parts of the toy come off as more painted than they actually are. I also want to call some attention to these hand sculpts. Particularly as 3D printed pieces, I think the level of fine detail is kinda impressive, especially with the fingers being as thin and clean as they are. Oh, he's also got a Mecha Zone figure stand, printed in black this time around. It's just as successful at its job as the Predanauts, but it's far from the only thing packed with the figure in his Ziploc bag. What Predanaut Fang lacked entirely, Mechanaut Soldier has in small abundance. He's decked out with a series of accessories, starting off with a shoulder pauldron that uses the available 5mm peg-end port system to attach to either arm. You could try jamming it elsewhere, but it's really made for bulking up a shoulder. And the green curvature of this accessory is another one of those moments where I realized that home 3D printing can do a lot more than I'd assumed a few months ago. The Soldier's also got an alternate pair of hands made for gripping all things 5mm and shaft-like. He comes with a sword and holster that can mount on his legs, his back, or his shoulders. While the holster's just gray ABS, the sword has got a lot of lovely gunmetal paint, with only the handle piece going bare. He holds it nicely and looks legit ready to wreck some business with this sci-fi military machete. That said, I love how well the sword slots back into its holster too. When there's time for war, there's time for peace. Something, 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 always time for robots with swords. So if you saw the Predanaut video, you're going to notice that this guy's skeleton is more or less similar. Not quite identical, but very similar. His head turns left and right. Simple left and right, peg in a hole kind of swivel. He's got these ball-jointed shoulders, which have a okay range. They go forward and backward just fine, and they can kind of move in any direction around the ball joint that they are clamping on. They are clamping a bit differently than the Predanaut, and they don't have a huge outward motion. It's about, what would you call that, like, just shy of, around about 45 degrees. If you want to get a bit more, I found if you pull on it a little bit, you don't want to ever undo the ball socket joint, but the ball of the ball socket is actually pegged into his shoulder. And if you take one of these shoulders and you do this and let it kind of slide out very slightly, you get another degree or 3 of motion in that direction. There is a single elbow joint with a good 90-degree bend. There's a wrist swivel because his hands swap, so it's going to swivel there. His waist, similarly, a lot of these things are using 5mm pegs and ports, which means you can't get a bit crazy sticking weird stuff in places. Like if you really want to be, I don't know, like a mad doctor type, you could take this guy's head and just stick it on top of his waist and... Oh god, what have I done? His hips have the same ball socket setup as his shoulders. Well, more like a ball clamp than a ball socket, really. And the one little problem here is the Predanaut had a little bit more range on his waist because this guy, his sculpt is just tighter around everything, like stuff bumps more easily. But even more so than up here, I discovered this kind of by accident because I was like, how far can I get his legs to go out? And they started going out more because, as you saw, the peg just slid out a bit. This is actually kind of cool whether or not it was intentional, because the peg doesn't, like, become looser. It doesn't become a case where, oh, now his leg is falling off when I do this. And whether or not this was intentional, this is a kind of interesting, like, extending ball joint setup that allows for more range by unseating the peg. And I don't know, if the pegs were a bit longer and ran deeper into the crotch, I think this could be made into a very purposeful piece of posability engineering. I don't know, just a thought. There's no thigh swivel, just like there's no bicep swivel, but there is a knee joint with a pretty decent amount of bend. It's much like the elbows, a solid 90 degrees, and there's a ball joint on the ankle with a really decent amount of tilt. Like, his legs are black here, but as you can see, like, look at that. This is, I think, one of the most surprising joints on the figure for me, is just how much his feet can move inside the like, Megatron bell bottoms that he's wearing. And it helps him have a really solid stance on his own. Like, you really don't need the stand unless you have him just up on, like, one foot. Because due to having big, rectangular Megatron feet, he's able to hold his balance super easy no matter what it is he's doing. His posability overall, like, it allows for a decent number of poses, but nothing too extreme, basically. Like, he's got a range of potential postures within the realm of simple stuff. That said, David White is already working on the skeleton of the someday Mechanaut V3, and he's been testing adding a bicep swivel by having one of these 5mm peg and port connections within the arm, like changing the design of this to allow for a straight seam across. So he's been, he's able to tinker with these designs because it's all in CAD before it even gets printed, and then if he wants to see if it works, he can just print one. So I don't know, like, I don't want to be greedy, but if the bicep swivels work out, it'd be kind of cool to see a thigh swivel too. Bicep swivel is way more important though, especially for a guy carrying a sword. This guy's able to do alright though, like, he's got a wrist joint which helps a ton, and it's like a very decently posable retro toy, and the design and the sculpt give this guy a lot of naturality to most any pose I end up putting him in. So he's pretty much as posable as the Predanaut, slightly more limited, but there's a little bit of play in the peg and ports that allow for a few extra degrees here and there. Also, like the Predanaut, this guy is like made for durability and made for playtesting and made for doing that because he can take it, man. There's no paint back here whatsoever. His head, the only paint is on his face, so I can far more readily just put him in a cannonball position and say, hey, can you take it? Can you take it? Huh? Mechanaut, can you take it? Can you take it? Yes, you can. Of course you can. Also, this is probably not intentional, but the chest piece is actually frictioned in because the Mechanaut V2 is going to be a kind of shared chassis in various parts of the body. So there's a cavity in here, so if you want to stick like a secret message in there or something, or look at the weird 3D printed webbing through the peg hole back here, sky is the limit. If you haven't gotten one of these and this thing doesn't like readily come off, don't like yank it off because there's a chance that like what I have done was entirely unintended. But who knows? Like maybe down the road this will be part of the modular thing where it's like this is all 5mm pegged and ported together, swappable chest plates, accessories sticking on stuff. I don't know. I feel like there's some real potential here going outside of the realm of just having the designs of a 6-inch figure getting rendered in physical form. We'll see what happens. Seemingly designed and produced in tandem with Predanaut Fang, the Mechanaut V2 Soldier makes for a great companion piece. It's also the other half of a strong start for Mechazone's 6-inch action figure era. As I said in the Predanaut video, these are pricey pieces for what you get, with a lot of the cost going into the nature of what these figures actually are and how they're produced. The bang for your buck is greatly lessened if you don't feel any connection to the idea of independent home 3D printed action figures. But as with the Predanaut, I am really into the sheer toyetic playability and durability that David White focuses on ensuring in his releases. There's room for growth and improvement, and I get the sense that he's eager to do both. He's already working on bicep swivels for the Mechanaut V3 whenever that happens, and who knows what else he might be able to cram in there. Leave some feedback in the comments, I know he's been checking these things. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and the next time we cross paths with the Mechazone, things are gonna get biologistical.